let's take a minute out of your day just for you and head to the self-improvement room today. I'm going to talk about tapping into the best damn guidance system that you can find on this planet. All right, welcome to the Self-Improvement Room. This is episode number 4, and I'm Christy Davis, and I am most happy to be here taking out a moment with you in the Self-Improvement Room to talk about what I believe is the most important subject on the planet, and that is you. Today, I want to tap into what I believe to be the greatest guidance system on this planet, and that is your intuition. All right, here's the thing. Intuition is not the woo. It is not magic. It's something that we just all have. Whether you want to recognize it or you don't, it's something that you have. Think about it. Do you ever get a gut feeling about something or anything, but you just choose not to listen to it? So oftentimes you'll choose to ignore it. It's like, yeah, I can feel or I can sense something isn't right, or there's this little voice in my head just saying, it's not right. It's not what you should do. It's not what we should be doing, Christy. And you just choose to ignore it. That's your freaking guidance system freaking the F out. And it is the strongest, most accurate guidance system you are ever going to find if you can trust it enough to tap into it. Now, I want to start with just a little story. Some of you might know that recently I lost access to my Facebook page, my music page. So I had 33,000 followers on that page, and I'd grown the page over the course of 14 years, which makes it very valuable. People are able to take over your page, wipe everything except the followers and the tick and the good history, and then use it as their own. So how does one do that though, right? I almost don't want to talk about this because it's embarrassing. But, and especially because I usually know better. But I received an email asking to be part of an online event. Now, usually I would have said no then and there because I'm like, no, that's bullshit, it's a scam. But for some reason, I just didn't. Like, I felt like I was going through a bit, which I'll talk about in a moment. So anyway, I'm like, yeah, sure, tell me about it. I jumped on Zoom with the organizer, and it was the morning after I had just found a massive lump in my chest, which I suspected at the time was cancer. It was a massive hard lump just below my collarbone. And so my head was everywhere during that conversation. So, he's telling me about this online event, and this is what you'll get paid, and this is who it's set up for, and this is who else we've got on the bill. Do you know how to set that up on your Facebook page? Now, if you've ever been inside of like the Facebook business management system for your pages, you'll understand that it's not very straightforward. It's actually quite complex, and it's been changed a lot recently as well. So I'm like, no, haven't really done that. Oh, yeah, sweet. Well, I'll walk you through it. Okay, sounds good to me. So anyway, my head was everywhere in that conversation, but even though it wasn't in the game, my gut was screaming at me, telling me to hang the hell up, get off the call. Me being nice, I'm like, I don't know, I can't really, whatever. I'm just going to go to the end of the call. Anyway, my gut's like, you're an idiot. And by the end of the call, I had unknowingly added this online event to my Facebook page, which gave them enough access to remove me and make themselves the administration of my page. I knew straight away. As soon as I hung up, I'm like, holy shit. And yeah, I spent a moment tracking them down before I thought, I'm not wasting any more energy on this. I'll let Facebook do their job. But the thing was, I didn't really care about it that much at that point in time because I had other things on my mind. My health is such a priority. Always, I was sick all of the time. I had to have something wrong with me. I was one of those people who were like, "How's your day?" "Oh, I tell ya, I'm not feeling real good." Anyway, so I think this week has been like the first mini cold I've had since. I've had this and COVID for 4 days in the last 5 years, and that is it. I just don't get sick. This whole cancer scare was freaking the shit out of me. And it really made me appreciate every single day, every single moment of my life. So as I was saying, I didn't care that much about a Facebook page. It was so insignificant at that point in time. And once I was cleared of my health and found out everything is perfect, including my blood, I made a promise to myself that I would never, ever, 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 ever again ignore my intuition, because I've done it so many times. Even with my husband, he knows now, he knows better. He would give me advice, on the first few years we were together about dealing with people or particular people. He'd be like, "Oh, I think you should do this," or "I think you should do that." And I'd be like, "No, I think this is kind of what they're feeling or thinking." He's like, "No." In the end, I should have always followed my gut. So now he says, "Christy, you just do," well, he says, "Babe, you just do whatever you think and feel." So yeah, my health was cleared and I made that promise to myself. And now I work really hard. Like, I work extra hard to tune in and listen to it, because my intuition's always been very strong since I was little. But like most of us, I've ignored it a lot of times in favor of, what the outside world says. We have our beliefs shaped by what people say. People that are close to us, people that are on TV, people that, are in our community, at school, in our workplace. All of that shapes what we feel like we should believe. But at the end of the day, that little voice is usually stronger than all of that. It knows more. So I guess the question you're left with, or I was left with, and you're probably wondering, is what is intuition? If it's not, like I said, the woo or magic, what is it? So intuition is defined as a natural ability or instinctive feeling that helps you make decisions without relying on your conscious reasoning or analysis. Because if you leave it up to your conscious reasoning or analysis, you're hard struck trying to come to a decision. So it's kind of like the inner guidance that can come in the form, like I said, of a little voice inside of your head, a gut feeling, or even a sensation in your body. So sometimes you might just start shaking and you're like, "I don't know why I feel like this." Or you might just feel sick in your stomach and you're like, "Oh, I don't feel very good," or lightheaded, or your heart might start racing. Or again, those little voices inside your head going, "Don't do that. You're an idiot. Stop it, you dickhead." That's what mine say anyway. So yeah, voice in your head, gut feeling, or sensation in your body. Intuition is believed basically to be our subconscious mind that draws from past experiences, emotions, and knowledge to provide you with insight or understanding that goes beyond your conscious awareness. So we're walking around consciously, but what we don't realize is that there's this whole subconscious world that we don't know about, we don't know what's happening. So recently I heard it explained as all of that information I just gave you, but with the addition of taking the information that is around that we don't realize. Usually, this is what happens, I'll break it down for you. Usually we will take in copious amounts of information, but we cannot filter that. We cannot filter all of that through our brain and process it all. There's just way, 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 way too much. Like if I tell you to, you're focusing on me right now. If I tell you to focus on me and your hand, you can do that. But if I then said focus on me and your hand and your ankle, that starts to become more difficult. So you can't focus on everything. So a lot of things are happening subconsciously. And I have heard that our intuition is a lot of that information that we haven't processed or filtered. So that's coming in as part of our intuition as well. So it's picking up on the things that we missing consciously but not subconsciously, which I think is also an excellent addition to the definition of intuition. And while I personally believe that, I also believe, and from research that I've done, that it also comes from our subconscious connection to the universe. Forgive me when I say that, don't go away from me yet, but whichever name you like to choose for it, like if that's God or source energy or pure consciousness or oneness or the universe, I believe that we have a connection to something, whatever you want to call it, and that is part of where our intuition is coming from, kind of often referred to as that sixth sense. So we're faced with decisions every day of our lives, but some of these are bigger and more difficult than others. And that's kind of when we consult our friends and our family and experts to help us arrive at our decision. But what you might notice the majority of times, and this happens all of the time, especially if we're doing little decisions, if we're making little decisions like what's for dinner, my husband will be like, do you want Thai or do you want Italian? And I'll be like, I just don't know. And he'll be like, pick a hand, right or left, pick a hand. And I'll pick the left and it'll be like Thai. And I'll be like, oh, because part of me already knew I wanted Italian. I just didn't know consciously. So you might have done that where you're looking for an answer for this big decision and you're asking these people close to you and experts and friends and family for their answer. And the majority of the time they'll give it to you and you'll be like, oh, it's not what I really wanted to hear. So then you're going to go look for somebody else who might agree with what you actually want to hear. So you'll be looking for advice, but not to listen to the advice, not to take the advice, but looking for you to be told, yeah, it's okay. That's how you know you've got your intuition. So I want to say this to you. You are far stronger and far more powerful than you realize. And that is what I have come to recognize in the last 8 years, but really more so over the last year. I had absolutely no idea how much power we actually have, how much strength we have, how much knowledge and knowing we have, especially in regards to our own lives. We all have these amazing abilities and strengths as people. It's just that some of us tap into it more than others do. Some of us don't even know that we can tap into these strengths and get our answers for most of our questions. I'm telling you, intuition is the best guidance system that you could possibly ask for, and it's free. I mean, that's a bonus. You don't have to pay for it. You just have to strengthen it. So I've been working really hard on my skills as a transformational coach, actually. So I've been working on my skill as a coach, and I work on transformation. And the most valuable thing that I've learned in my job as a coach is to guide my client to their answer, because the answer they already have within themselves. Now, that was probably the hardest transition for me to make from music career coaching to personal development and transformative coaching. Helping people transform their lives outside of music, just in general. It was really hard for me to go, oh, you know what? You should just do this, 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 and this. I mean, it wasn't really hard for me to go like that. That's what I wanted to do. Or you should read this book, or you should try that, or, this is how I did it. Sure, sometimes you'll have a little bit of that, but my job as a transformative coach is to guide my client to their own answer. So, for example, I was actually coaching my sister recently. She's like, can you coach me? Sure. No worries. And she's tried a budget before, and I've, given her my strategies and tactics, and I've read the Barefoot Investor 6 times, and I've read Dave Ramsey's stuff, and I've read so many different financial books and looked at so many resources, and tried to help her with a budget in the past, and couldn't do it. Didn't stick to it. But this time I sat with her and I just guided her, and she chose her budget. She chose the amounts that she wanted to put away and save. She chose the amounts that she needed to pay on particular things. So all of it was her decision. I just helped her set it up in a way that functions well for her. And she got to choose whether things were weekly, fortnightly, monthly, everything. And she was so damn excited about that budget by the end of that coaching session that she went, I think, to Kmart and bought a book so she could just do up this amazing budget that she'd had. And now she just cannot wait for payday because she's not owing people money. She's not already spent her money. She's got money for her bills. She's got money for everything. And then as her money comes in, she even gets to spend that extra wherever she chooses. So it's all about choice, and it's all about her being the one that has led herself there. So it's very, very important that we learn that we have the answer within inside of ourselves. And that is something that I've really only learned over the last year, is that we have all of the answers within ourselves. And I've learned that a lot through coaching as well, seeing people come to their own answers or conclusions or, their solutions, and then they see results far better than the results that I would ever be able to give them by telling them what to do. That's what I mean by you are so much stronger and so much more powerful than you actually realize. It's just that you've got to tap into it. So again, you have all of the answers. And even if you have to sit with yourself for that week or 2 weeks, the answers will come. That's probably one of my biggest ADHD gifts. That's what comes with my ADHD anyway, is that I'm generally able to make those decisions very quickly and then I stick to them. I mean, that can be scary sometimes, but that is something that I have always been able to do. And that's probably why I'm so in touch with my intuition. So I want to give you 3 very practical ways to start tapping into the best guidance system on the planet, and that's your intuition. So number 1 is practice trusting yourself. One of the biggest barriers to accessing your intuition is self-doubt. Learning to listen to your feelings and think more deeply about what they could mean is going to put you more in touch with your intuition and understanding what you're thinking and what you're feeling and what it could mean. The more times you trust yourself in a situation, the more you'll be able to build that habit and the easier it will be to trust your intuition. Number 2, pay attention to your body. Your body will give you very strong signals to help you navigate life. You'll know when that partner's not right and it's time to leave. You will know when that partner is right and that's the right one to marry and have children with. You'll know if you want children. You'll know if this is the right job for you to take. You know deep down. You just have to listen. So your body's going to give you very, very strong warning signs. And they get stronger and stronger the more you listen. Feelings of excitement right through to warnings when you're in danger. Learn to pay attention to the feelings that you are experiencing. And once you start to understand that feeling, you will notice all of the hidden messages that your body is giving you. And at number 3, test it out and keep score. If you're worried that you might make some huge mistakes when it comes to trusting yourself, just test it out on the small stuff first. Keep a journal of when you were right and when you were wrong, and this will help you build the confidence in that guidance system. So many times during my career, and it still happens, but I'm working on changing this, but so many times during my career, my gut has told me what to do. And so many times it's been so different to what the normal is or to what you should do to be successful that I just can't fathom listening to my intuition, especially when I'm always told that that's not the way to do something. You will not be successful if you do it this way. But I'm telling you, every single time, without freaking doubt, months or even years later, new ways of thinking and doing things start to evolve, and it's generally the way that I saw things years ago because I just have a feeling of what I'm meant to do, even when it comes to this stuff. When it comes to this stuff, there's certain things that I should be doing on the podcast, and there's certain things that I should be trying to sell, and ways to make money, and ways to do this and ways to do that. And right now Even though I know all of those because I've learnt them, I'm not interested in that. I'm just interested in giving you information that is going to help you transform your life. Sure, eventually I want to write books and make a living from keynote speaking and mentoring, and I make money from coaching already, but this is just because I want to make a difference, because I just don't want anyone to go through what I went through if they don't have to. It is so freaking unnecessary. If you just know a few key things, you can save a whole lot of pain. So now I always push myself to go against the grain and do what my intuition tells me. Open up and trust yourself. There is honestly not another single person on this planet that cares more about you and your life than you do. Your intuition has got your back more than anyone else on this planet. It's the best guidance system you'll ever have access to, and like I said, it's free. Start using it, start developing it, and just see how amazing you actually are. All right, don't forget, if you've got a question for the podcast, I will leave the link to the form in the show notes for you, to the podcast, your favorite podcast you're listening to. Or if you're watching on YouTube, I will leave the link in the description. Now, before we go, I do have 2 questions for this week that have been sent in, and it looks like they are about last week's episode. So let me get this question up. All right. And don't forget, I have all of these questions remain, well, not the questions remain anonymous, but the people that send them in remain anonymous. And this is just my advice. It's an educated guess. It's from my experience, from my education, from myself and my experiences, like I said. But at the end of the day, before you implement anything and change your life, you should always seek professional guidance and professional help. So yeah, before I get into the questions, I just want to let you know that. Okay, so question number 1. So I did what you said, and I noticed that my children and my husband and even I are speaking with negativity all of the time. How do we change this? Yeah, it's an eye-opener, that's for sure. And when you start hearing it all of the time, you're like, holy shit, no wonder the world is in the place that it's in right now. Firstly, it's nothing to stress over. The best thing is that you've actually stopped and taken the time to listen to the conversations, and now you're aware, which means that you can start to change them. So if you find that you have quite a negative kind of bias in your conversation, then the first thing that you can do is change your thought patterns. Now that can take a little while, but every time you notice yourself being more negative or more pessimistic, just stop. Just pull yourself up and go, okay, what else can I think there? How else can I think about that? You know, what other perspective can I take? And do the same with your kids and your husband. Don't go, oh, you're speaking negative again. Because trust me, that doesn't work. I tried that with my husband. He just doesn't listen. The best thing to do is when you hear that in the conversations between you and your husband, or if you hear that in conversations with your children, just stop and let them finish whatever they're saying and say, do you think we could try that in a more positive way? Or depending on the types of children you have and your husband, find a way to approach it that isn't going to condemn them for it. So just, even if you go, you know what, I was saying something like that to myself earlier, and I just stopped myself and thought, I wonder if we can look at this in a more positive light or more optimistic light, or, you know, can we frame it with a different perspective? Can we just, you know, try that? And that is how I would approach that. And even still, my daughter will get real pissed at me. She'll be like, really? Really, Mom? I'm like, okay, well, you can continue to think that way, but just know that like attracts like. And she says, what do you mean? I say, well, whatever you're putting out there, you bring back. And then she just sits there in silence and walks away eventually. But I'm sure that is playing on her mind, like attracts like attracts like. So I would suggest trying that. And just be consistent about it. But especially be consistent with your own mindset. Because if you can change your mindset and then they hear you speaking that way, that will change them quicker than you saying something. All right, and question number 2 is way back to week number 2, I think it was. We were talking about overcoming anxiety and self-awareness. And I was talking about it being kind of like a video game, getting to know your character. And this question is, what if you don't want to get to know yourself? And then he or she goes on to say, I'm a bit scared that if I get to know myself, then perhaps I may not like myself. That's a totally fair thing to feel. That's in fact, I'd go beyond fair and say that a lot of us probably think that way. But here's my question. What if you do stop and take the time to analyze who you are and you like who you are? I mean, that's a pretty good thing to have happen. So that's one possibility. The other great thing is, if you do take a look at yourself and you don't like the character that you are, you can change it. You can change it. And I'm about to do an episode, I think maybe next week, actually, about DNA and genetics and how you can change who you are. So make sure you tune in next week. And that will really well and truly answer your question. But as I said, you'll either find out something about yourself that you like, or you'll find out things about yourself that you don't like, but that gives you a starting point to change. Not knowing who you are, not being self-aware, is just going to perpetuate those feelings that we were talking about. And I'll link to the episode as well, so you guys can watch it if you haven't seen it. It's called Overcoming Anxiety with Self-Awareness. And it's just going to perpetuate those feelings, more feelings of shame and guilt, like we spoke about in that episode. Personal development is about growth. It's about self-growth. And the first thing that you have to do is know who you are and be aware of who you are. You cannot change what you don't know. So I hope that makes sense for you. And I am sure that you have a lot of great things going on for you, but you just haven't taken the time to realize, or you have a negative mindset, which we spoke about last week, and you're only seeing the negative. Perhaps just change the perspective and begin looking for the good stuff before you look at the stuff that needs the work. All right, I hope that is helpful to you. Thank you for sending in your question. If you have a question, like I said, you can fill in it's very easy. It's literally your name, first name, address, and the question that you have. If you don't want to send in a question, but you fill in that form, you will be added to our Self-Improvement Room Inside Edition, which is kind of like our little journal notes that I send out. They're my little personal notes to you to help you on your journey. So if you want to join the Inside Edition, all you have to do is fill in that form and just not send a question, and we'll add you to the list. All right, I hope that was helpful for you. Join me in the Self-Improvement Room next week. Same place, same time. And don't forget, over time, a little each day becomes a lot. All right, I'll catch you next week.